DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Super Rugby Round 4, just another cracking round. We're saying this every week. I started the show by saying this. Tony Johnson calling it for Sky Sport, of course. We're going to start something different this week, Tone. I'm going to give you 6 quick questions, pretty much a yes or no answer required for each. And then we can obviously develop on these things, right?
Yes.
That win by the Brumbies, is that the most significant Super Rugby Trans-Tasman result in, I don't know, years?
Probably.
Did MP deserve to win that game at North Harbour against the Canes? They did. Is Lautoka the new fortress of Super Rugby?
Yes.
Should New Zealand Rugby be worried, i.e. Scott Robertson, about the All Blacks underperforming, the Blues Stars, etc., the Hurricane Stars who aren't playing well? Should he be worried?
They've got a lot more things to worry about than that.
3 Aussie teams in the top 6.
That's not a yes or a no, is it?
No, but is that exactly what this comp needs? 3 Aussie teams in the top 6? Is that what this could?
Yeah, probably.
And how excited, this is not a yes or no, but how should the Crusaders get really excited after that win against the Reds yesterday?
Why not?
Why not? Let's start there because it was Sunday afternoon rugby, which we all love, Tony.
Yep.
It's on a beautiful day, of course, and let's hope that, I don't know whether the powers that be are going to have these every Sunday, but as winter approaches and that, I mean, a Sunday game up against the NRL, I love it. Look, it was a Red side without some of their stars. I can't get a read on this Crusaders team. They got smacked points-wise by the Chiefs. The scoreline blew out at the end. They beat the Hurricanes. Now they've beaten the Reds. Where are they? I mean, I put them 3 or 4 on the table. They're sitting around about there. Where are they exactly?
Yeah, they're needing consistency now because they've, that was a good win. That was a useful Reds team. I don't think the Reds played as well as they might have. I think they got sucked into it by that whole daytime thing. Bright sunshine, beautiful conditions ground-wise against a team that was running the ball, had it hard at them, and I think they tried to play a similar sort of style, and it didn't work for them. They made mistakes that I know Les Kiss would not have been happy about. So, yeah, they didn't play as well as they might have in the circumstances, the Reds. But no, that was a good performance by the Crusaders. You can see the parts are all there, particularly if they can keep key players healthy. I thought their forwards were really good, particularly the venom with which players like Blackadder really either with ball or hand or without ball and hand played. So there were a lot of good things about it. Look, I think bottom line is they will be better. They will be more prominent this year than they were last year, which was absolutely a bottom line requirement of them. Whether that's going to be enough to challenge for the title, I don't know, but I think the signs are there. What they have to do now is perform like that consistently. Also, agreed, loved the Sunday afternoon game. Great crowd there.
Yeah, it was.
More of it. Happy.
Let's rewind all the way back to Friday night then, where the Blues were a scrum penalty against the Hurricanes away from being last year's Crusaders 0-4 and then travelling down to the Chiefs. And that, just think about this, that champion team potentially, this game, this Saturday night against the Chiefs, it's not going to kill their season if they lose, but it's going to kill their chances of finishing first. Why are they not winning?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that they're in a spot of bother here. When you look back to last year, they played 10 games on Eden Park, they won the lot, and the average score was 38-12.
Good Lord, great stats.
I think the Hurricanes were the only ones that really got close to them, and they thumped the Brumbies. They beat the Brumbies twice, but the round robin win was an absolutely spanking win. Look, one thing I would say about the Blues at the moment, everyone's got injuries. We mentioned the injuries that the Reds have got at the moment. I think there was something like 51 New Zealand players were unavailable for their teams last weekend.
Teams,
That averages out at 10. And I think that the injuries and the unavailabilities, if you chuck in Hoskins Satutu's suspension in the Blues, are too significant to just be dismissed as an excuse.
Yep.
When you look at the way they were beaten at the breakdown.
Yeah, they were, totally.
7 breakdown turnovers that they conceded. No Papali'i, no Satutu. Obviously, Akira Ioane's gone as well. You haven't got Sam Darry in the middle of your line-out. Things like and Kurt Eklund as well, who provides a really good 1-2 punch no matter what order they come in with Riccatelli.
Yep.
So you've lost experience. You've lost a lot of that, the core of what made them good last year. So that's not an excuse. And then you chuck in...
But that's a reality, though.
That's a reality.
Yep.
And they haven't been able to bring what made them so good last year with any sort of consistency. The other thing is, Beauden Barrett, if he'd played another 25 minutes in that game,
true.
that would have been enough,
Yeah,
I'm sure, because you saw the magic there
Yep.
in the first half, the magic that we know.
And the speed as well, Tony. That's
it's
what I
still
like.
there.
Yeah, still there. Yeah.
And I think another 20 minutes of him, who knows, could have been a different outcome. Didn't happen. The other thing I'd say, just little judgment things. They had a chance to knock 3 over late in the game, went for the line out. 3 would have padded their lead out to 5. Different mindset about the Brumbies having to go for a try rather than force a penalty.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think most concerningly, the biggest concern out of the game, obviously, the Barrett injury. The other concern, the forwards, as we've mentioned the breakdown, but the line out.
Oh.
They got nothing out of that line out that I've just been talking about. The line out got wobbly.
And they
then
botched it against the Highlanders as well. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
And then that last scrum. And I thought a bit of a masterstroke from Stephen Larkham, who's had a lot of critics in his time as a coach, Stephen Larkham. But I thought bringing Caden Neville on right at the end of the game, just to be there for that last scrum, big lump of a bloke fresh off the bench, bit of extra horsepower. You knew what was going to happen.
Well, you called it. That's the thing. You called it and got it exactly right. And when you first called it and said that they're going to go for a scrum penalty here, I was looking at the TV going, you don't get a scrum penalty against a New Zealand team at this time, and they just monstered it.
Yeah. And the fact that they were able to do that. Look, that's a great win for them.
It is, yeah.
That's a significant win.
Well, look at their draw, Tony. They've gone away the Chiefs. They beat the Drua in Fiji.
Yep.
They've gone away the Chiefs in Eden Park. And I was saying to Lachlan, there ain't many teams in this competition that go to Fiji and win and Eden Park and win. So they're 2 significant results.
And
right?
don't forget, too, that they are playing at the moment without Noah Lolosio, although I thought Meredith had a terrific game, the young number 10. One of a number of young fly halves in this competition that's looking quite good. And also Rob Valentini, who's at the key of their ball carrying game. So, things are looking pretty good for them. And I've never seen Stephen Larkham. I don't think I've ever seen him smile before, let alone almost tears in the eyes. Weekend at Burnings.
Look, and he's one of those guys, one of those Australian players where I've always, that whole backline of him and Gregan and you had Horan. I mean, it was the golden age of Australian rugby. He was a terrific player. And also he wasn't a huge guy, Tony. But the sleight of hand, go back and watch him play. He was a beautiful player to watch, wasn't he?
Like him to almost like a Larry Bird sort of influence on a game. And I think I used the expression a stoic genius, and I meant that as an absolute compliment.
Yep.
That this is a guy who never showed any great emotion, but what a computer for a brain.
All right, we're going to talk about New South Wales because I really want your take on this. I mean, it's just that they're the only unbeaten side, but they've had a couple of kind of really last gasp wins as well as that, but they deserve their second spot. But let's go to Fiji to start with. And I don't think, outside anyone outside of Chiefs territory, and it's no insult at all, but the rest of us watching on the telly wanted the Drua to get a win there. And there's something about that ground, Clarkey with the call, packed in, a lot of Chiefs fans wearing great Hawaiian shirts and things made up for what I thought was a great spectacle. But the Drua deserved to win that game.
Absolutely. And congratulations, firstly, to Glenn Jackson.
Yeah,
That's his first win as the Drua head coach.
He's going to be joining us on the pod a little later on in the
Brilliant.
week.
Yeah, good on him. And 7 wins in a row now at Churchill Park.
You go. Okay.
They'll be worried in Suva too because they'll probably think they're going to lose their games now. But, you go there and there's something different to anywhere else in Super Rugby. And that is what you want.
Yeah, of course.
And the conditions, it's still rainy season up there. So the chances are it's going to be wet. I think probably the Chiefs, to a degree, might have been a bit guilty of trying to play their normal game in abnormal conditions. Mm-hmm. But there's just something about that Drua team when they start, they get the go forward and they're throwing these, one-handed offloads and guys just loping onto the ball into space. It's a beautiful thing. And
the chip and chase try.
Oh, yeah. Those,
magnificent.
Those sort of little X-factor things, uncoachables, I suppose people would call them.
Yep.
So, the Chiefs lose their unbeaten record. They'll go back home now to take on the Blues, and what a humdinger that's going to be. But
what a game.
To me, and it's a bit like the Moana Pasifika game. I think the story is more about the team that won than the team that lost.
Yeah. And look, the Chiefs will cop that one on the chin. It doesn't mean they're a bad side. It doesn't mean they don't deserve their spot at the top of the table.
Well, they're not exactly the Lone Ranger losing in Lautoka, are they?
Well, and also 3 New Zealand teams losing over the weekend. And let's go to that game at North Harbour. And that was a MP team that won the second half without Ardi, who set out with the hamstring tightness. But I don't know whether coming of age is a bit dramatic, but it's certainly what they had to do this season. They had a couple of close losses. Remember the first couple of games, they'd conceded 100 points. They'd tightened that side of it up. And again, by the second half, they deserved to win that game.
Well, first and foremost, Martin, you just the sight of the game, the look of the game. It wasn't a huge crowd, but they had them all packed in on that side. It looked good. Far cry from the rather desolate surroundings of Mount Smart, where it always felt like they were playing on someone else's ground.
Yeah,
and,
right.
and I thought it was a risky move going north of the bridge, but I think it could well pay off for them because it's their patch now.
Let's hope so. And
hopefully it grows. The buzz grows. And as you say, quite rightly, when Artie goes off at half time, and I had him in my fantasy team. So
Here we go.
I had three of them.
No
Barrett, I had about three of them at the weekend. Another one in Christchurch as well. But the other thing too is, a lot was made about Jackson Garden Bashop going as well as Artie, but I think in Patrick Pellegrini, I think they might have uncovered a gem here. A guy who played, I think, age group rugby in New South Wales. He's been playing in the UK, but he's come back. He's in his mid-20s, so he's got a bit of maturity as against a lot of, as I say, these young number 10s that are playing in the competition. I thought his kicking out of hand, as in his ability to find space on the field, not just lump it down the throat of some guy in the backfield, and off the tee, was probably as good, if not better, than anyone else in the competition.
I think they got
this week.
outscored in tries, didn't they? But it was...
Yeah, but that doesn't really matter in a situation, and it's probably not what you expect.
No.
So, look, I think that's a really significant result for them. It's also a significant result for the Hurricanes because it leaves them down in the basement, which is not what we were expecting.
And after the Ruben Love try, where they got a bit of luck, where the pass hit his knee, I was watching it thinking, oh, that's just MP at the moment. They can't buy a trick, but they actually read, because those kind of things can be quite psychological in a game, can't they? You just think, oh, God, all the bounces against us and everything else. But they regrouped, they came back, and they put 40 points on. That Hurricanes team now go down to the Highlanders this weekend. I mean, you're talking about humdinger games, and this is the great thing about it. On a Monday, I'm looking forward to these games already.
Yeah.
And that's a real test for both Jamie Joseph's mob and also for Clark Laidlaw, because he's got to get that Hurricanes team 1-4. And you're scratching and climbing to get it back into the six.
Hurricanes freshening up off the bye as well. So, they've had a week off, maybe.
Highlanders off the bye, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, I said Highlanders, Hurricanes, Highlanders coming off the bye. They'll be hard to beat down there too because they've just got little X-factor things in the game. And we've talked about Tava Nawai, what he brings. You've got to be really accurate when you play them because they'll feast on, things that you get wrong. So, again, bit of pressure on them as much as there is on the Blues, because I think people expected them to be in the playoff picture, and at the moment they're not. Look, they're not that far off the pace.
Let's be honest about that. But
you've only got a few points covering, I think, first to seventh. I think there's about 5 points in it. Some teams with a game in hand. But you lose, 2 out of the next 3. There's a risk that you will start falling way off the pace.
1-4, 1-5. That means you have to start winning a bunch of games in a row.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Let's go to New South Wales then. And the only caveat I'll put on this is that first game against the Highlanders, they got out of jail. Against MP, that could have gone either way. Yes, they've belted the Force. They've had 3 at home. Now the big test for them is going to go and play the Reds, isn't it?
Yeah, and for once this might be a game between the Waratahs and the Reds that lives up to the hype. They hype it up every year, and they bring Sam Scott Young out of, and all that sort of stuff. And
who was the guy that punched Frank Bunsen?
That's Michael Bryle. Yeah. His lad's playing too for the Reds. Yeah.
But look, it should be, because this is the fixture that has to excite Australian rugby fans, because that's where your market is, right?
Yeah.
So
a bit of success, hopefully, it'll grow things, because there's no doubt that the game over there has had its real problems in the last few years. But just the sight of them, I think there's no longer that resignation that when you read some of the Australian columns, things like The Raw, which I always enjoy reading.
You're great scribes.
There's not that, resignation about, oh, God, here we go, playing another New Zealand team, same against same. There's a bit of optimism there. So, that'll be a good one as well. As I say, the Reds, they'll have been disappointed with aspects of their game.
Sure.
Waratahs, there's a bit to like about them. Angus Bell being terrific, and as I say, talking about the fantasy, he's a regular fixture in my fantasy team.
You must be doing all right.
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. I got up to about 500th at one point at the weekend, but
we're celebrating 500 these days. That's not bad. Okay, but is this am I undervaluing them a little bit because they've had 3 at home and because they've had 2 wins, or are they legit?
Look, I don't think it matters how you get the wins. really, in the end.
Yeah.
You scratch them out, you thump them, whatever, they're still worth the same amount of points, or give or take a bonus point here and there.
Sure.
So, no, look, they were always going to be a better team this year. Of course, Suaalii wasn't playing at the weekend. They'll want to get him back as soon as they can because he just brings another dimension to their game.
To it. Yeah. Tony, so when I asked that question, is 3 Aussie teams in the top 6 exactly what the comp needs? I'm asking that from an Australian perspective, but you've answered that question where you're just saying that from their side of it. This is, look, they've, Lions tour, of course, it gets said every weekend, but this is what they need, don't they? If this was a competition after 4 weeks where the New Zealand teams were 1 through 5...
Yeah, but you also want to alter that mindset in New Zealand that, it's an Australian team, we won't go this week.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah. And because that's what that Brumbies win. That's why I thought it was so significant.
Yeah.
I know that they've got lots of injuries, the Blues, but even so, to go and win at Eden Park where they haven't lost for a long time.
Try and bring it back to the days like, for example, I've been lucky enough over the years to do a lot of Crusaders Brumbies games, mainly in Christchurch, a couple in Canberra as well, and they always brought the big crowds in because we knew, especially back in the days of Larkham, Green and co, and that they were always going to be a tight, hard fought game. Such an outstanding legacy that they have. It is good for the
Let us finish on, and Chris Jones is going to cover all the Six Nations for us. But you have gone back and watched replay after replay of Dupont and the injury and the knee. Yeah. And that rules him out. He probably wasn't going to come here and play us, but I mean, he's one of the world's greatest players at the moment.
Well,
right?
He is the best player in the world at the moment. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The most influential player, put it that way.
Those knee injuries, you can come back from them. He's come back from them before, but they're serious injuries and they put you out for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, there's no definitive prognosis at the moment, but it doesn't look good, and they're very upset about it. Look, I have had a look back at it. But
how many replays?
I looked at it half a dozen times, just a clip that I'd seen, different angles presented. I don't think it was malicious.
Great.
That's my call on it. I wouldn't put it in the same ballpark or anywhere near as, for example, the injury inflicted on Quinn Tupaia.
That's a good
in the
Bledisloe
Cup, because I think that was a player who definitely went and targeted the lower leg area. That's just my opinion of it. What I think about this was, he was there. I think he might have got a shunt forward from a teammate behind, which might have pushed him into the knee because he's standing there. He's locked in that position, Dupont. But you have a look at Tyg Burns' head. If the leg is there, he's got his head turned away. I don't think he's even looking at where he's going. I don't think it's in his mind.
Okay.
No, I honestly do not see that was deliberately.
And I'm glad you say that because I don't think players go out to hurt other players.
Well, some might, but not in this case. And I thought Angus Gardner handled it pretty well. Obviously, they're upset. And look, let's face it, Martin. This is being made an even bigger deal than it might be because it's Dupont. Because of his status in the game. You heard Gregory Aldrich say to the referee, but it's something like, he's such a great player, it's a shame to lose it. I thought Angus actually refereed that game really well. There was one, I think, probably contentious call when he ruled out a try he allowed a try after it looked like one of the Irish players had been taken off the ball. His explanation to me made sense. I still didn't buy it completely, but other than that, I thought he had a fantastic game. The clarity of his decision making and his explanations, goes a long way to demystifying a lot of the riddles that surround rugby at the moment. But I think he got it right. I don't think anything will come of it in terms of a judicial thing. It's just a great shame that a great player is now going to be sidelined for a period of time. But as Angus Gardner said, I'm afraid that's just a rugby thing. That's just something that happens in rugby.
Final question on the two refs. And is Gardner, in your mind, the best referee right now?
Well, he's a guy.
Ben O'Keefe was pretty bloody good against yesterday for the Crusaders Reds.
Angus, to me, I just think he's a guy I always like his manner about the game. There's enough authority there, but there's enough empathy there. There's a lot of good referees, and they're all a little bit different. But to me, I just thought that was an outstanding refereeing performance. And I think, as I've said to you, I think probably in the last couple of weeks, Martin, that I think the refereeing across the board in Super Rugby has been good because they are allowing the players to decide the game. They are not conducting forensic inquiries.
We're all delighted
for
about
reasons
that, mate.
not to award tries and slowing the game. They're keeping the game going. And so I think, you got to take the hats off to them generally.
rocking round 4. Let's look forward to round 5 kicking off on Friday.
DSPN.